Hello again, everybody. My name is John D. Healy. People know me because I got this book out. Now it's on audio. You can get it on audio. My podcast is called It's Good to Talk, sponsored by Liffey Movers. Over 50 years in the moving business, longer around than Jeopardy. I've probably interviewed, maybe 30 people podcast so far. All different people, not politicians, not sports stars, but very real people that work very hard. Today, my guest is no exception. Special guest. His name is Michael Moran. He's a real estate broker with the Douglas Elliman Group. Incidentally, Michael Moran, my mother's maiden name is Moran, so who knows? Maybe we're related. Michael.
That would be interesting.
We could be. She was pretty and intelligent, and she bought property. So tell me, Michael,
Well, she's got to be related.
It must be.
Well,
so where were you born?
I was born in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, about 30 minutes outside the city. My parents decided that they thought it was best to move out there and raise us with backyards and whatnot. But I was really a diehard New Yorker. I think my whole life. I was fortunate enough to have an apartment here in the city through my dad, and we kind of did like back and forth, and we got to stay over at night if they were out too late. So it was kind of fun. So yeah.
And say your early, did your dad and mother, they influenced you into sales, or was that part of it?
Well, I don't think they influenced me in sales until I was older. My dad was in property management here in New York. Sorry, you might hear my dogs playing.
That's fine.
Yeah. So my dad was in property management, but we didn't really know what he did. They kind of protected us from that. They didn't want to really persuade us to do anything. But a funny story is that I was about 7 years old, and my parents were looking for a new house. We're always looking for that next really special house, and I think that's why today I actually specialize in really unique properties.
Yes.
And we were out looking, and we had seen pretty much everything on the market. And I was in the back seat of our real estate broker's car. I happen to be a passionate car person, so I remember it was a celery green, a 1977 Mercedes 300 TD. And yeah, it was a great color. So I tapped my mom on her shoulder, and I said, "Mommy, this is what I want to do when I grow up." And she laughed and said, "No, this is what old women do when their husbands retire and they don't want to spend the whole day with their husband. They get a job, they get a Mercedes, and they sell a couple houses a year." And back in 1977, that's really what it was. It wasn't a career. And I said I was going to change that. And so fast forward, I went to college up in Boston, came back, and within about a year, I started selling real estate. And this will be my I guess almost 30th year now.
Yeah. Well,
but to go back to that question, my dad did train us to sell. So every night after dinner, he would hand me the salt shaker. I don't have one here. He would hand me some garlic and say, "Sell me that," and I would sell him that piece of garlic and why that special piece of garlic was so unique and why it had more value. And it was fun.
Well, that's exactly it. Like my background is marketing as well. As in studying marketing. And I remember, even though I probably walked through all the corridors of St. John's University, etc., but certain things that you remember. So when you're selling that piece of garlic, as an example, people are looking for the word is the USP, the unique selling point. So you have the gift to be able to tell the customer what is unique about a certain property. In a, say, Upper East Side apartment, maybe it's the kitchen, or maybe it's the bathroom, or maybe it's the daylight coming in. So tell me more about the early days of selling. Your dad obviously taught you a lot. He instilled in you something in your brain that clearly gives you a gift of a very good salesperson. And you said how many years you're in the business, but that's not like work. If you enjoy what you're doing, that's just a pleasure every day you go out and you help somebody make the decision to buy the apartment or sell the apartment. That's easy. Tell me more.
Well, my core value is passion. So I am a very passionate person. And I am not the number one real estate broker in the city, but I'm certainly up there. I probably could be number one if I didn't care as much for my clients, whether they're the buyers or the sellers. I build a relationship with them, and I'm now working with granddaughters of people that I worked with in the past. So, that's a lot of repeat business. I think that you really can't sell someone an apartment. You can sell the dream of ownership. They go in to buy an apartment, and they're looking to build memories, and it has to fit them. What you can do is point out the reason why certain qualities of this apartment match their needs. You have to listen to what they're not really saying. So, if they're always constantly looking at a view and you're noticing that the apartments are always dark, then, maybe they don't know that they're actually looking for something more bright and maybe not with a view.
Right.
So it's really about that. And then once you're helping them find that home, that
Right.
dream home. Then from there, you have to do the selling, which is really towards the other broker that you're involved with. It's about negotiating the proper way for them. It's really about representing them and their best interest.
Right.
And when you're working with a seller, that's their home. They may have raised children there. They've lived there for however many years. It may have been their first home, or maybe it's going to be their last. That property they own.
So it could be
It's
an
their
emotional
dream.
value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of emotions there. And you have to do a lot of hand holding. I've worked with sellers in the past, early stages of dementia. We're negotiating on the apartment, and she's telling me how that stained glass window she bought from an antique shop right around the corner from an apartment that she used to own on Park Avenue. We were in that apartment. We were there. So, you have to take a step back and understand what they're going through and then guide them the right way.
Well,
so
I excuse me, I already know that you're in the top 2 or 3 in New York. I know that from my research because I've checked out Douglas Elliman, of course. And I know I've worked with other brokers because, as well as that, Liffey, when it comes to moving and we do the lifting, and you've been kind enough to refer Liffey many, many times because we are experienced, and experience is something takes a long, long time. You can't buy it. You have to earn it. So nice to say thank you for sending business to Liffey. So let's come up more close and recent in terms of 2020, the pandemic. The world was going to end and the world is still spinning around. The prices came down for rentals and people were moving out of New York City. I know this from Liffey because the guys at Liffey, they stopped going to the gym and they started doing more lifting. Just joke. It was a strange year when prices of apartments, you're better at the figures than me, probably went from 3,000 to 1,000 or from 5,000 to 2,000, given whoever thought a landlord would give you 2 months free rent just to rent. That was a whole new era. And now things are looking better and landlords now are trying to put the rents back up. And it's an issue in New York City where rents are going back up again. Now, my argument is, and it's not a huge argument, and I've done other video stuff on this, a virus is a virus. It doesn't actually just go away and say good night, hello, and goodbye. So who knows if there's another variant or something else. I don't want to be the preacher of doom and gloom, but I think there should be a steady as she goes process of rent increases. My same view is on the interest rate, by the way, which is poignant, is I don't think the interest rate should be increased. What's your view on that, Michael?
Well, we'll get to the interest rate shortly. The fact of the matter is New York City is always the is always the last place to feel some sort of a dip in the economy or so. And certainly the last place to feel prices go down. And if you remember correctly, about 2018 or so, New York City really felt a big hit in real estate. The rentals actually went up in value, but the sales market really took a big hit. And we lost, I don't have numbers in front of me, but we lost about 25% of the value across the board in New York City real estate here in Manhattan, especially. And then when right before COVID, we started feeling that change. We started feeling a comeback on that. The rest of the country had not seen that. So it was very strange. A car with his exhaust. It was very strange to see that in New York because, again, we're the last place to feel it and the first place to recover. So we were in recovery mode. And if you remember, September, October, that fall market before COVID was very strong. My partner, Matthew, and I, we were on track to have a really great year. And then all of a sudden, in March, really kind of even earlier, we started seeing COVID happen. And it really we shut down in February. So it was a huge impact. The prices didn't really come down so much during the pandemic on the sales because sellers didn't have to sell. They all spent the summer out on the country homes or here in the city. The renters really got hit hard. Because the landlords because everyone said I can work from home and I could work from home in Ohio or go back to my parents in the suburbs, wherever they're from, and not pay $3,000 a month for a studio and actually, save all that money because a lot of people are still making that same income.
That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the commercial people as well, that they figured out, people can work from home. You don't need an office. I do a lot of work from home. I'm still a consultant with Liffey Movers, so I deal with customers online, and we do estimates online. We don't have to go out and check. You can do it on a FaceTime to do an estimate for moving your apartment, and we
Right.
could move you anywhere in the world, actually. But that's just giving a plug to Liffey again. But getting
Well,
back,
I want to give you a plug too, because if you remember correctly, from like March through that summer, there were Liffey vans, Liffey moving trucks on every block lined
oh
up
yes,
because
oh
because there was like a 40% vacancy in New York City on
correct,
renters, and they all moved out. But keep in mind also, and this is really important that a lot of people aren't aware of, most New Yorkers move into the city during the summer months after they
right,
graduate college.
right,
So that is typically when leases renew. So they weren't just, abandoning their apartments. They were like, well, you know what? I'm not going to renew right now. I'll move to the country. I'll move wherever. So it was just about the lease renewal
right,
process, and it's always up. The busiest months of the summer,
sure,
Liffey vans are all over the place.
yeah,
So that's what happened, and then we sat on empty apartments. You could look into buildings, major rental buildings. One right next door to me has 418 units. 50% of that was empty. No lights were
wow,
on.
wow,
And the streets were very quiet except for applauding
sure. I remember that. Nurses and doctors, yeah,
essential first essentials doctors. That was the busiest time of the day, and it
yeah,
was actually scary. But slowly, once the pandemic started opening up, once we started getting back to a new normal, but a normal, and I'm tired
mm,
of that phrase, new normal. Once we started seeing that, people started moving back in.
yeah,
Landlords were offering 2, 3, 4 months rent
yeah,
free,
yeah,
huge discounts in the rent. They were paying the broker commissions. And all of a sudden, people started moving back in.
mm,
What we're currently feeling,
mm,
and we'll still feel that all summer, is now that leases again are renewing for that
right,
same time of the year.
right,
They landlords are raising those rents back to and above what they were originally getting.
mm,
So people that got these incentives, and I
mm,
know a lot of them, they don't have them anymore.
mm,
They are paying substantially more,
mm.
and it's affecting us. I think that we'll see the market tame down after the
Yeah,
summer.
I
I
agree.
think
Yeah.
that September, October will show different numbers.
I think reality will come into place, and there has to be kind of a happy medium that you
Yeah,
just can't. It's basically supply and demand will
exactly,
will
exactly.
will prevail. And the other thing, strangely enough, is like say on the Upper East Side, like new developments, like new properties going up, and they're going up like 20 floors and 22 floors and all that. And I wonder, and I'm hoping to have an architect on my show in a few weeks' time as well, to go in more to the engineering and the design. Do they really think forward of the garbage, the schools, the retail, or will everything just be like fresh direct and there'll be no supermarket, no deli? Will someone take out your garbage and you just live in on the 20th floor of 80th Street? Have you
Well,
thought around that?
it's interesting. The landlords absolutely consider that because you have to make sure that the buildings are maintained properly and people are happy and in a healthy environment.
Good.
A lot you can tell just walking up the street. 2 years ago, a lot of a lot of the restaurant stores were empty,
Correct.
especially ones that didn't have the outdoor space to gain a shed for outdoor dining.
Right.
And obviously Amazons of the world do all the delivery, so that's a major part of it. But they do take that into consideration.
Good.
A lot of these retail stores are now occupied with new restaurants. Some
Good.
of the same owners have opened up again in the same space under a new name, possibly, or the same name. So we're seeing all of those retail shops open up just along Second and First Avenue. It's happening.
Good.
Also, these new buildings, a lot of them are very large condos. And
Mm.
and so it might look like there's 20 apartments per floor, but there's really only 3 or 4.
Okay.
And there's retail spaces in the ground level of those, probably at discounted rates for right now,
Right.
but they're filling up, and we definitely have the infrastructure to
To deal with it,
accommodate
yeah, good.
more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ironically, I've been in New York as well, like from 76, 77, but then I went back to Ireland and
What
Europe.
year? What month did you move here?
I came back to study at St. John's, I think, in 1980, 81. But I worked in the neighborhood during that time, and I must give a shout out to Finnegan's Wake. They're 50 years old. So I wouldn't say I was the first customer to have a drink, a pint in Finnegan's Wake, but I was there in the 70s. So Finnegan's Wake.
I was too, actually. My parents used to take me there
Well,
quite
there you go.
often. I probably met you. You could have babysat me, maybe.
I wouldn't go that far, but spike your drink. But yeah, no, Tony King, the previous owner of Finnegan's Wake, he opened in 1973. So that's one corner, like it's what can you say? It's part of New York City, you know. It's
Yeah,
the same as Neely's bar. Like I know Neely's the same as Finnegan's Wake is famous, and I'm glad to see that it continues on and takes on a new life with Finola, of course. And they're the things I like, you know, about New York City. But let's get back to the interest rates. You were saying I want the interest rate to stay level, not go up for various reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, everyone wants them to stay low, whether they can or not. I think they just got voted today that they're going up again a half a point. They are still very low. Keep that in mind. 5% is a very low interest rate. Right. In 1984 or the early 80s, late 80s rather, they were at 19-20% interest.
You know, crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they are still very low. Yeah. In 2007, I bought a property and my interest rate was about 5%. So we're at about 2007 rates right now.
Right.
They're not high. Yes, it's concerning, and will it slow down the market here in New York? It's going to make an impact. It will.
Yeah.
But most of the impact from that will not necessarily be in fewer apartments being sold. It's more attached to the buying power a buyer has. So, for example, if you're spending $1 million for a 2-bedroom, right? That's the entry level of a 2-bedroom, and the interest rate goes up 1 or 2 points in the next year. Yeah. Your buying power goes down substantially. And so you might fall into a large 1-bedroom category than being able to get into that 2-bedroom category. So the fact is right now is a very good time to buy. Prices are still lower than they were in 2018 and the interest rates are low. So, you know, get out there and buy. I should show you some properties this weekend.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to come to that in a moment as well. I did another podcast a couple weeks back about inflation and how inflation is calculated, and like the consumer price index, and how the economists, well, leave the economists out, how the journalists talk about inflation, and they don't really understand it. They don't know how it's calculated. So the consumer price index, the main product in the consumer price basket is the price of oil, price of gas. So obviously it's sometimes speculated and it's high. We know the price per gallon went up, but not by a huge amount. And if I was projecting forward, and I would love your opinion on this, like when more electric cars will be on the road, there will be less demand for gas or petroleum, whatever the case may be. So then the gas demand will come down, and then the inflation will come down. So people are panicking over not too much at all, you know. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Hold on 1 second. No, I'm getting a call, so I'm going to send that to voicemail. All right, and we should be back. We're back? Yeah.
We're back, yeah, don't mind.
Yeah, so keep in mind that inflation has always been around, and it has always gone up. So we're dealing with a lot of that right now. Oil prices have always fluctuated. They're at a very high right now. The fact of the matter is we as a country should be doing everything that we can to get more electric cars out there. And that's changing. I mean, listen, I as I mentioned earlier, I'm a car freak. I love cars. Yeah. And for me, I don't drive that much, so I don't really care if it's $5 a gallon or $6 a gallon, but I don't drive that much and I don't get great mileage. But I always joked when Prius was like the only electric or hybrid car out there, I never liked them because I thought they were funny looking. I still do. And I used to tease my dad when he had one. I'm like, oh, Dad, should I get out and push you over the speed bump? But today we have so many more options for electric cars. There's so many new brands. I'm not going to plug any of them, but they're no pun intended, plug them. They are like ranging now. You can get into one at about $30,000. So they're at the same price as a normal car. And with the options, they look like normal cars again. They don't have to look so funny that, to stand out. So we have a lot more options. And by 2025, we're probably going to be the majority electric. And that's a really good thing. Prices will come down on gas.
There'll be less demand for gas and being down. When I was in Ireland, one of my properties, everyone knows me from Mother Hubbard's. famous restaurants in Ireland. I'm that guy, by the way, in case you don't know me, if you're looking from the other side of the world. But I bought a property in Roscommon, and I got planning permission for a wind turbine, right? And it took me ages to get it, going through the red tape and all that. A wind turbine would have paid my electricity in that property for 3 or 4 years, and then, in other words, it was like $23,000 or euro, and then it was paid. And wind is free, So
yeah,
people are catching on to solar and to wind and to the electric car. Those things can change the economy like very, very like fast and rapid, And this is why I like to do podcasts with people like yourself that are out and about and you're aware and you see day to day what's going on. Michael, great talking to you. Now, talk to me about the market on the Upper East Side. What properties are for sale? Anything hot, anything cold?
Well, it's interesting. I've been doing this for a very long time. I started off doing rentals on the Upper East Side, only rentals. I had a lot of great landlords that had rent stabilized apartments. And slowly I got into the sales aspect of it. So I have sold apartments ranging in price from about $110,000 to, $25, $30 million properties.
Okay.
So I am not prejudiced to price at all. Right now, we just sold a beautiful studio that was about $270,000. Doorman building, pre-war, separate kitchen, really nice space. We're pricing something. Excuse me. We're pricing something for about $350 right here in the mid 70s, where all the action is. One of the nice things is that the Upper East Side, because it's the largest neighborhood in the city, excuse me, has some of the most amount of units, and we have a lot of co-ops, and co-ops are obviously a lot more affordable than a condo. But they're ranging, so you can get into a beautiful large 1-bedroom in the East 60s in a doorman building with the common roof deck, with storage, with the garage, with the gym, all for like $550, and your maintenance being about $1,700 a month. That's a deal. So when people are saying, "Are there any deals out there?" There absolutely are, and the fact that the interest rates are still low, there's deals to be had.
I totally agree, and I think everyone's different in terms of rent or buy, but like we all know, like rent is dead money. You pay the rent and the rent is gone. If you buy the co-op, you're investing and you own it. Okay, as long as the maintenance isn't crazy, and if you equate your mortgage with the maintenance, and it should be less than what a rental unit would be. And give it 4 or 5 years, you have value. You've invested.
Exactly. To own an apartment today is cheaper than it is to rent one here in New York. For example, that apartment that I was talking about for $549,000, that would rent for probably $35,000 to $4,000 today. And to own it, you're spending probably about $3,000. And so, and you're not throwing that money on rent in the garbage. You're never going to get that money back.
Rent is dead money. But
exactly.
Some people have to rent until they find what it is they're looking for, and when they find their spot. Michael, a pleasure talking to you. How can we contact you? Have you an email? Have you a phone number? We find
Best way to reach me is 917-747-7643. That is the best way to get me, because I'm always with my phone, and I look forward to hearing from you or anybody else.
Oh, you will, of course, yeah. Once again, my guest today, Michael Moran, real estate broker with Douglas Elliman. Very interesting podcast we did. Lots of food for thought and tidbits. If you're looking to buy or sell, call Michael Moran. And my name is John Healy.
And let me give you my, I'll give you my email, my social media, Michael Manhattan Moran. I'm the only one. Michael Manhattan Moran.
I like the Morans. That was my mother's maiden name. And jh@yahoo.com. And we'll get this up and running. Thank you, Michael. Bye.